this week, we are going to talk again about some AI. Eventually, we'll talk about something different.
No, I don't think so. I think this is it now.
Just the AI podcast.
Welcome to 20,000 episodes of AI content on planet Earth.
Yeah. Even the most niche AI, we'll find it, motherfucker, and we'll make an episode out of it. But this week, I want to talk about what people are calling the first AI cryptid, Loab.
Loab. I love this. Let's go.
So let's dive in. This is a relatively recent development. I'm glad that I waited as long as I did to talk about it because it's kind of grown beyond containment, and there is a lot more information that people are kind of like talking about. So this actually happened. It was a Twitter thread back in April of this year. A Swedish-based musician and artist named Steph Swanson, who goes by Super Composite on Twitter, posted a lengthy thread, which is the majority of what I'm going to be quoting and pulling from. They posted this long thread saying that they had discovered a, quote, unexpectedly emergent property of AI software in the form of a creepy, feminine-ish figure, which they lovingly ended up nicknaming Loab, which, by the way, the spelling is L-O-A-B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, not lobe like a brain with
Or
an
like
E.
an earlobe.
Or an earlobe. It's not cute like that. It's not cute.
Like when a toddler says a lobe of bread. It's not really
Yes.
talking about that.
No,
It sounds very pagan in its spelling.
Fuck.
Yeah, the
Loab.
spelling.
God, this is...
They were saying they discovered it when they were asking the model to produce something, quote, as different from the prompt as possible. Basically the inverse of the text prompt that they had made. So I'm going to send you...
It's a fun take. I never thought about that.
Yeah, so, and we'll get into more of how that sort of works. Super Composite says, I discovered this woman who I call Loab in April. The AI reproduced her more easily than most celebrities. Her presence is persistent, and she haunts every image she touches. Okay, so that is the first
fucking god.
image.
I know, it's not great to look at. It's really not.
Oh my god. What?
Yeah, go on.
It looks like if someone who had the worst sunburn in the world was run over by a tractor.
Oh my god.
It also, this image in particular is funny to me because it's horrifying visage on the set of like Roseanne. I don't know
I
what's
was gonna
going
say,
on in the background.
This monster also, I think, has the Rachel haircut.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. To me, the thing that gets me about it, and I'm sorry to the audio listener, but they need to know, the mouth of Loab is like a dead straight line most of the time, like across.
It's feline almost.
It's
You
very
guys,
upsetting.
you remember that movie Pumpkinhead from like the 80s? It was like it wasn't like a monster that had a pumpkin for a head, but it was very feline, kind of like.
I do.
Yeah. It's kind of Pumpkinhead-ish, I think.
God,
What else is horrifying about this particular image is what is on Loab's shoulder. What looks like a Jim Henson rejected idea.
like horse character.
It is like
I'm seeing a horse
weird,
as well, like a pony.
Yeah, like a weird pony, but it's also got a broken leg that's got a cast with a bunch of signatures on it. Man, I feel like I'm describing a dream that I had, and it's so fucking boring. I'm sorry.
AI generated imagery is now in like a Renaissance kind of period. Not even Renaissance. It's like the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. I was just gonna say the same thing. Somebody made AI the version of the cotton gin, and now we're fucking here, dude.
Yeah,
it sucks,
dude. Exactly. Fuck you, Eli Whitney. So AI Whitney.
Nice.
Okay. What I'm thinking though is that there's probably already writing screenplays about horror movies based on AI shit coming to life like this.
That was like
as soon as they come out, they're going to be 5 years behind.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the things I was looking at a Reddit. I went to Reddit because it's better than trying to go to like mainstream media because they never fucking get it right. But some people were like, in a year, there's gonna be a Slender Man type movie about it.
Absolutely.
Great,
I fully think that as well.
100%. So. The Super Composites thread goes on to say, AI tries to make the image look as different from the prompt as possible. This logo was the result of the negatively weighted prompt Brando -1. So I'm going to send you, because this is actually where it stems from. This was the seed, basically. So this was the image that came back from Brando -1 in the prompt.
How?
So what they did was, after they got this generated, they took that image, and it kind of says Digita Pintix.
Like digital picnic or hydroponics.
And it has multiple Transamerica buildings in this. So.
yeah. Or a spooky vampire castle.
And fucking Isengard or something over there.
Yeah. So they were like, what is the opposite of Brando, right? Basically, this is what came out. Then they went, well, if I plug this image back in as a negative, then I should get an image of Marlon Brando back, right? That logically, that's what would happen.
I'm not playing AI image creation correctly. This is way cooler than anything I've ever done.
So, unfortunately, what came back was the first image of Loab that I sent you.
Yeah, I don't think I'm smart enough to do some of these things, and also, frankly, I'm glad for it.
Yeah, or have the time to do it, you know?
And you didn't generate a cryptid?
Yes, someone's just absolutely conjuring nightmares.
Yeah, so Super Composite goes on to say, I wondered, is the opposite of that logo in turn going to be a picture of Marlon Brando? I typed Digita Pintix Skyline logo -1 as a prompt. I received the following off-putting images I will continue to send to you. All of the same devastating looking older woman with defined triangles of rosacea ? On her cheeks.
Oh yeah.
Super Composite says that using the image as a prompt for further images produced increasingly violent and gory results, stating, quote, through some kind of emergent statistical accident, something about this woman is adjacent to extremely gory and macabre imagery in the distribution of the AI's world knowledge. So these are some more of the images.
Fucking fascinating. It is so fascinating.
I honestly don't know if I'm going to be able to show these on the YouTube video. And I edited some of these out because they are awful.
But you
even
can clearly
Super
see
Composite,
it's her.
Yeah. So even Super Composite was like, I'm not even going to share with you on Twitter some of the ones that I was getting. That's how fucking awful and gory and gruesome they were.
It's just wild to think about whatever reality she's living in. She's associated with all this pain.
Yeah, in like the negative latent space of the AI realm. It's really weird.
It's so gnarly.
I like it.
John's face.
Oh my god.
It's icky.
It's icky. It's really disgusting.
It's icky.
The textures in some of these images are...
I know.
So Super Composite goes on to say, since Loab was discovered using negative prompt weights, her gestalt, which is just her image, is made from a collection of traits that are equally far away from something, but her combined traits are still a cohesive concept for the AI, and almost all descendant images contain a recognizable lobe. So this is a quote from several articles that I found where someone was saying, it's interesting how a collective of intelligence that has already proven itself to be prone to sexism and racism due to human bias attaches horror to the idea of a middle-aged woman with skin issues being haunted by reproductive pressure. So what they're talking about here, which came up in a lot of articles, was, excuse me, how, AI pulls from essentially the collective consciousness of the culture, i.e. like American culture and sort of constructs and beauty standards. And so that's what's kind of also informing a lot of this.
Well, remember too, those MIT scientists and researchers proved that AIs could be influenced by human bias through Norman.
Yeah. And that's a thing that people are kind of speculating why, especially in the horror genre, You know, it's always the creepy woman with the long black hair and the fucked up face, or like the corpse bride type stuff. So it feels like maybe it's kind of pulling from that on top of this weird latent space.
But like accidentally. It was never the
Yeah.
intention.
What does Brando have to do with this?
I don't know.
Maybe
I think it was like sending a negative prompt
I mean, it's
on
kind
top of itself.
Brando-esque, like bone structure and nose
yeah,
placement.
yeah, in his
maybe.
later
a
years.
little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Godfather 2, Godfather,
Or
yeah.
Island of Dr. Moreau.
To me, it's also that he's associated with violence in like his work often.
Yeah, that too, totally.
Yeah.
So the article goes on to say the preponderance of children and gore that surrounds Loab, not to mention Supercomposite's original description of her as a devastated-looking older woman, betray a faint penumbra of the unquestionable ageism, sexism, and repronormativity rooted in a culture that has basically always discriminated against women and is most recently attempting to return uterus-bearing members of society to a forced birth state. So, there's a lot going on there, and as a man, I can't speak to a lot of the socio-political takes, but I get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you just read like a thesis statement for a doctorate program. That bowled me over. That was quite a lot.
What article? Who wrote this?
This is from, I'll have to find it.
Put it in.
I can't remember.
That sounds like a well-written, researched, like a lot of the articles we use for these fucking episodes are not to that level.
No, and I think
that sounds incredible to read.
So it's actually from, the Allergist or Allergy something. It was like a random
Sure.
website. I was like, I don't know.
Ad copy.
Hey,
Yeah,
they
it
got
was
a
the
fucking-
website.
They got a fucking hot shot in there, fucking popping off theses.
Yeah, the website, like when you read what the article about Loab sort of sounds like, and then you look at the website URL, you're like, this came from that website? Loab and her kids. This is Loab, a very Loab Christmas.
No! Oh my god.
So,
These are fake. These are fake. These are fake.
these are not real, John. They can't, Loab can't hurt you. These look like a bunch of dolls made out of human flesh.
Yeah.
This looks like you put a bunch of yams in the microwave.
There's a funnier analogy.
I was gonna add to Harlan's that have been left out in the sun, and and then John just nailed it with the microwave yams.
So, continuing on the Twitter thread, Supercomposite mentioned that they were like, well, let me try some different things to try and get away from Loab, to escape Loab's grasp. And so they used an image that their friend had made with an AI generator, described as a hyper-compressed glass tunnel surrounded by angels in the style of Wes Anderson. Not anything like Loab. It was a very pretty piece of AI art. And so Supercomposite combined it with the original Loab, and even more nightmarish Loab imagery came out
Trying
of
to
it.
like purify Loab almost.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And so Supercomposite says the Angel Hallway plus Loab also produced art with such copious gore that probably very few people want to see them, but here are two. I don't feel comfortable posting the most disturbing ones. Borderline snuff images of dismembered screaming children. Now,
It feels like
always children.
someone trying to break AI because there's so many like guardrails that have been put up in place to prevent you from creating said imagery because of your prompts. And so I feel like if they're able to just like push it to the boundaries of getting these kinds of things without verbatim saying, let me see a bone snapped in half kind of thing.
Right.
Like that sort of thing is kind of wild.
well, and the other interesting part about this is that aside from the first Brando -1 and the Digitapintix -1 images, all of the rest of them were not text-based. So they were putting the images into it was like an image AI generator, not a text-based one.
Yeah.
So
This,
it wasn't
opposite
them,
of this image.
Yeah, it wasn't them typing in any prompts. It was just make the negative of this, basically.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to send you, this is one of the more gory ones.
Whoa,
Oh,
dude.
interesting.
It's
So-
not that bad.
I mean, listen,
go ahead and paint a word picture.
Okay.
Before you do that, I do also want to preface, the generation we are from, we are the millennial generation. We are also maybe a little desensitized to some of this stuff because we were young enough to be doing basically this with the when the internet was new by being like, what's the most fucked up shit I can find on the internet? And looking at beheadings and fucking, executions, like faces of death shit. So like,
Unfortunately,
to
seen a lot
me,
of that as well. So
I'm like, it's just some paint. It looks like an oil painting. When in the back of my subconscious, it's like, but you've seen dead bodies on the internet, dude.
yeah. So okay. I actually would say this looks like one of Loab's children has decapitated another one of her children.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And so it looks like in the bottom looks like almost like a faint like blade is maybe present, but other than that, it's like one of them just very upset, like almost yelling, holding up another one that is locked in its death face, and there's a lot of blood.
It's very Saw, like the background looks like it's in like an industrial kitchen somewhere.
Yeah, the filter looks like one of those early 2000s horror movies too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Saw really, the Saw 1 really rings a bell here with the way the image is being produced.
I find myself yearning for the earlier images now.
Yeah. Well, that's going to continue.
Worse. Yeah,
they definitely continue to ramp up. So. Super Composite said about these ones, there is something moving to me about these grotesque scenes and the desperation, panic, and sadness that they convey. However, David Holtz, who is the founder of Midjourney, upon sort of learning about Loab, said the following. Obviously, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of gore, but the problem is that you have 10,000 people who want to do gore all day. Then we produce more gore content in 1 month than all of human visual history. I don't know if we need that.
I cannot imagine there's no way I would get one more lick of sleep if I created Midjourney. In my life, I think I would probably just be awake thinking about all of the horrors. Yeah, let me tell you, if I had stumbled upon creating AI imagery and unleashed it upon the world, I would probably, having seen these particular images, move to a very isolated cabin with no electricity or anything, and just live out my days as a wanderer.
Yeah,
and a hunter-gatherer.
I can't. I don't want to put words in David Holtz's mouth, founder of Midjourney, but he must some days feel a little bit like Oppenheimer. I am death, destroyer of worlds. Was that him that said that, right? I am now become death upon creating the atom bomb. Like, well, we've opened a whole can of worms and there's no going back now.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't put the lid back on.
No, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. How many other analogies can we come up with?
Look, you can't put the bullet back in the casing, dude.
You can't put the lobe back in the thing.
In the liminal space.
Dude, turkey's out of the oven. Sorry.
It's Thanksgiving. Let's go.
Eggs out of the pooper.
Let's go.
This is the end scene to some horror movie right here.
Yeah,
This is the final, I'm zooming out and then we're going to have end credits.
Yeah, that's not snow, by the way. That's asbestos, for sure.
I think it's ash.
We have our main character Loab in the
Red Riding Hood outfit.
In the Red Riding Hood outfit, she's in bright red in the middle, clutching two of her children close. One suspect in the back, covered in some sort of ashy asbestos.
Accomplice.
Yeah, This is greeting the new overlords of the wasteland.
This is Melania
That's what I would
Trump on
title this.
Inauguration Day. Is what this is.
So there's some more from Super Composite. They say the AI can latch onto the idea of Loab so well that she can persist through generations of this type of crossbreeding, which, holy shit,
Crossbreeding.
without using the original image. Here is Loab as Kirby.
Is this Kirby swallowing Loab?
Yeah, this is them doing. Let's do a silly one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the fucking mouth again. The straight mouth of Loab that drives me insane.
And the red cheeks are there.
The defined lines for the cheeks.
And the just undying sadness.
Yeah, there's a person on TikTok that makes like horror pies. I don't know if you've seen this, Harland.
No.
But they make like these gorgeous faces in puff pastry. And they cut out holes for the eyes and the mouth, and then they bake it on like a cherry pie.
Oh,
and
maybe I have.
film the results, and it ends up looking like what this photo was just sent.
Were you about to say our friend Loab there?
Yeah, I was, but this is no friend of mine.
No. So they ended up making multiple iterations of Loab where they created Loab. I'm not going to show you these ones because it's just too many images. But they made Loab as a bee. They made Loab celebrating Pride Month. They made Loab as the Joker, and also a Na'vi. All of them equally horrifying, and I do have the Na'vi image that I will send in just a moment.
Timely.
I want to see that.
Yeah, very timely. I mean, we gotta, right?
This last image that you sent also looks like the original image for Sonic the Hedgehog that they had to redo.
Oh my god, that's so on point.
Quote, even when her red cheeks or other important features disappear, the Loabness of the images she has a hand in making is undeniable. So James Cameron's classic.
I mean, I would see this movie. I would go. I would rush to this more than Way of Water.
Yeah, okay. I guess, yeah.
This is my Avatar. This is my $250 million movie.
James Cameron's Avatar. Damn it, you made the joke first.
Hashtag not my Avatar.
Another quote from Super Composite. I started going kind of insane at this point. Sometimes it takes more abstract forms. So here's an abstract Loab.
Can you imagine just sitting in your house doing this shit? It's the mouth again.
It's the straight mouth, yeah.
Yeah, the mouth is there. The cheek shape. It looks like a David Fincher, like a still from a David Fincher credit scene. So people were saying Super Composite says that when they combined images of Loab with other images, the subsequent results consistently return an image including Loab, regardless of how much distortion they added to the prompts to try and remove her visage. Quote, I would include her in prompts that I knew would almost distort her beyond recognition. After she disappeared from the image breeding lineage, she would sometimes reappear. Just couldn't exterminate Loab.
Dude, that's so fucking freaky.
Yeah, they speculated that the latent space region of the AI map that Loab is located in must be isolated enough that any combination with other images could only use Loab from her area and no related images due to its isolation. Now, I don't really know what that means because I'm trying to conceptualize this in a physical space, and that's not how this works. In my head, it's like a Loab universe in like just a black void with not pixels, but with like ones and zeros, and it's like she's making her way, like that scene in Avengers with Ultron. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a bug. Like you have an infestation in your image generation, and it is impossible to eradicate.
You know when the camera goes down Neo's throat?
Yes.
You know
that's
how,
Loab.
Things get torn apart as it's going down, and you kind of see it. That's where she's existing, and she can go around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's again. I don't have the mind to conceptualize this in the way that
Neither do I, man.
Probably like engineers do. So it's just they're isolated, and then it keeps coming back.
Man.
It's not my problem. I'm a real boy.
I'm going to
not a
listen
Loab.
to this, and I'm going to see this, and I'm going to drink enough to forget it later. And,
And then the episode will come out, and then you'll remember it later again.
I feel like there's going to be dreams.
Ooh, bummer, dude.
That sounded so ominous. I feel like there's
Dreams
gonna
of
be
Loab.
dreams.
Another quote from Super Composite. I was ripping Loab apart and putting her back together.
A lobotomy.
She is an emergent island in the latent space that we don't know how to locate with text queries.
Lobcade.
That was a stretch. The other lesson is that image prompts can be used as adversarial attacks, targeting weird stuff in the distribution. I think my process in itself constitutes art, but it also reveals the AI's weakness for malicious use in other cases. Which I think is what they're referencing in terms of the input, like what we were talking about like biases.
Yeah, you can't necessarily get it to do the gory stuff like by command. It is like an almost passive way to do it.
Yeah. So one of their last tweets was Loab, the first cryptid of the latent space. Perfect.
The latent space.
I'm ready for Mission Impossible 8 Loab.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a good one.
Ethan Hunt kills Loab.
And then jumps off a fucking motorcycle out of a helicopter into the Grand Canyon or something.
Running full speed.
All
into
the
the
time.
Matrix.
Somebody also ended up asking Super Composite, where does the name come from? Does the AI know the name? Like, you can generate Loab by using that term? Super Composite replied, nope. we just gave her the nickname based on the text in an album art like image in the original post. So there was an image with Loab where, you know how AI doesn't do well with words? It had created like an album art that just said Loab next to Loab. And so they're like, oh, that's their name. But if you use Loab, if you try and put that into a text AI prompt, you won't get Loab. That's not how Loab works.
I did try to summon her. And I failed. And I also tried describing her. This is also in Midjourney too, which I don't think she's necessarily existing in.
So yeah.
Because what is she in right now? I can't remember what the AI is called.
So that's the thing is Super Composite has not disclosed what AI generator they're using.
Oh, got it.
They've kept it a secret for a multitude of reasons, as they put it. But also, I'm sure if they did, whatever AI company would be like, hey, can you not associate this horrific eldritch monster with our AI generator? That would be great.
Yeah.
So that's something else that they said one of the reasons was they didn't disclose it. Despite hyping up the cryptid nature of the discovery in their wording, Super Composite admitted that Loab isn't really haunted, of course, but noted that the mythos that has sprung— this is the more interesting part about this whole thing, I think, is that the mythos that has sprung up around AI-generated character has gone beyond their initial involvement. Also, since more images of Loab are being made by other artists now, future AIs will use those images as part of their latent space maps, making her an innate part of the internet landscape, with Super Composite adding, if we want to get rid of her, it's already too late.
Yeah, she's there now.
What?
Yeah, so, and then I went down kind of a rabbit hole about, like, cryptids and sort of what they're talking about in these mythoses of made-up monsters that kind of get this lore created behind them. Perhaps these Loab images are the online equivalent of false Bigfoot prints generating their own mythology and setting it loose to propagate. Like how a lot of like the Bigfoot print casts are easily faked and reproduced at home. And like basically they're guys in monkey suits, and you can get a monkey suit wherever you want. But you get enough photos of those going around and people don't know it's a monkey suit. Like there are references to people who owned like fucking Planet of the Apes costumes that worked on the movie, were also a part of sort of propagating the myth of Bigfoot. And it's like, that's what we're doing on the internet with all of these weird creations. It's just, you fucking make a weird thing, make a 30 tweet thread, And now it's a real thing.
It's also how conspiracy theories start too, not just supernatural occurrences.
Yeah, so many like references to that as well when I was looking into kind of trying to expand on like this idea of what are cryptids, and we are feeding. It's a feedback loop, like, right?
Yeah.
So
feedback loop's the best way for me to visualize it or
Yeah,
conceptualize
so-
it.
there were a bunch of like responses of people seeing this thread and talking about it. Some people were saying it's a legitimate quirk of an AI software or a cleverly disguised creepypasta. It's really hard to say.
Well, it is now. It's definitely a creepypasta now.
It's a creepypasta now too.
100%.
Whether it was to begin with or not, it is now.
Yeah, and so for people that don't maybe know what a creepypasta is, they're horror stories transformed and embedded through repetition. In sort of some articles referencing Slender Man, I found this other thing that happened on the internet. Do you guys know who Momo is?
Yes.
Or what the Momo
No.
challenge is?
Yes. I briefly talked about it at one point, and it turned out to not be really anything.
Yeah. So
but there were some horrifying sculptures that people made of it.
yeah, so Momo is, as people were relating Loab to sort of this Momo character that was a sculpture by Japanese artist Kaisuke Iso. And I didn't save the image, but just Google Momo. It's awful. And it went around on the internet in the same way where people were like telling horror stories about it. It became like this own sort of cryptid creepypasta thing. So much so that when it went viral, Kaisuke destroyed the sculpture. He was like, nah,
Wow.
fuck this. People are
Whoa,
like turning
dude.
my artwork into like this horror challenge and destroyed it. Unfortunately, we can't do that with Loab. Loab is infinite now.
Ultron, dude.
Great.
So the Smithsonian Magazine wrote that, quote, Loab sparked some lengthy ethical conversations around visual aesthetics, art, and technology, and some have criticized the labeling of a woman with rosacea as a horror image, considering this to be stigmatizing a disability, which we kind of touched on in terms of the horror woman element.
Which goes on to the whole fucking the history of horror movies in general, though. Like, it's built off the back of that. It's only been perpetuated by what we now view as creepy.
Yeah, which I'm sure you could
It's a fair
take the
point,
horror, like the creepy woman as a horror trope all the way back to like Puritan times.
Yeah, dude.
And like sex is bad, the female body is bad, vaginas are gross and scary, and I'm a man and I don't understand
Look at
them.
fucking
So
Salem fucking witch trials.
somebody referenced Salem witch trials in one of these articles too. It's the exact same thing. It's super unfortunate that Loab is a female sort of
with that
figure.
mouth, whatever has that mouth is gonna haunt me. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that it is on a woman. Yes.
Yeah. But again, it's like it shines a light on like, well, that's our culture, man. Maybe we should change something. This horrifying creature, kind of showing the mirror up to society a little bit there. The Atlantic writer Stephen March described Loab as, quote, form of expression that has never existed before, whose authorship is unclear, and that exists as an emanation of the collective imagistic heritage, the unconscious visual mind. These people are very smart.
Insane.
Visual mind.
Lawrence Verhagen
Holy
in
shit.
Die Volkskrant commented that rather than showing that there are, quote, dark horror creatures hidden deep within AI, the existence of Loab instead implies that our current understanding of AI is limited. Mary Atkin at the Alan Turing Institute stated that rather than a, quote, creepy emergent property, output results like Loab are representative of the limitations of AI image-generated models, which is also could be true, and was more concerned about the urban legends that are born from such, quote, boring, innocuous things, and how easily other people take these things seriously, which again is totally what we're fucking talking about here, where this is going to be in fucking pop culture. It's going to be movies. I'm sure there's fucking there is fan art of Loab already.
Yeah.
One other person though did point out, Carly Casella from Science Alert described Loab as a modern day tronie, which I didn't know.
What is
John,
that?
okay, I thought maybe you would know because this is an art related thing. It is, tronies are not representative of something that is like an actual person. They're a Dutch Golden Age painting and Flemish Baroque paintings that depict an exaggerated or characteristic facial expression. So I actually have an example, which when you look at this and compare it to Loab, you're kind of like, oh, it is maybe just kind of like the exaggerated features of a person, because many of them are these like over the top, almost caricature like paintings. So I went down a whole other rabbit hole about tronies, and they're fascinating. Yeah, so they're always like, basically created tronies was to achieve lifelike representation of the figures and to show off illusionistic abilities through free use of color, strong light contrast, or peculiar color scheme. There was an Imager user recently shared images of a default woman who often spawned by the program Midjourney. So this is kind of happening in other AI image generators. Back in June, a comedian, Guy Kelly, stumbled upon a nude goblin-esque form by requesting Krungus from Crayon, yet this monster had no clear origin in the available Google results for the term, raising the possibility that the AI tool had simply invented it. All other AIs are being like, oh, you got a Loab? Well, we got a fucking Loab too. Ours is Krungus, baby, and he parties.
Yeah, he looks like Gollum if Gollum was like terrifying.
Fucking jacked.
Yeah.
So for me, this idea of do you say default woman? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I don't have an image of the default woman from Midjourney, but
sure. But like, think about we do this already with like someone like Hide the Pain Herald or any of those other stock photo people that we use in memes all the time.
Yeah,
we already as a society have an idea.
Oh, dude,
of what
I didn't
even
think about that.
The stock person is for all these different moods and feelings, and now AI is doing just replicating what we already do with that.
That's super. Like, honestly, that's so rude. That's like so rude that we just like take stock image people or just like fucked up like bad photos of people.
Harold tried to reclaim his image and failed. Remember?
Yeah. So, but or like the guy, the smoking weed guy, I always forget his name, like the high guy.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like we just put labels on how whatever our cultural understanding or representation of like what that feeling, like that image represents in an emotion or a feeling. It's like, no, you're just the default feeling. You're the face of being high now. Sorry, guy, you're real life Loab. It's, dude, that's so dehumanizing.
It really is. Holy shit. AI is holding the mirror up to us, if anything, at this point.
It's like, you did this all before I existed, you fuck.
Oh my god.
So I have one last thing from, there was a Reddit user, and I really liked how they put this, kind of summed up how Loab exists and what Loab is in the most succinct way possible. They said, I think it speaks to the data sets being used to train these systems, its biases, which in turn speak to the societies from which these training sets originate. Historically, straight-haired, fair-skinned brunette women with dark eyes have mainly been used in horror as opposed to any other style. My guess is these sorts of cryptids may appear in many more places than we think. Horrifying.
That sucks.
Yep. I don't like that.
Some of them might be like fixed points, like the golden ratio, Euler's number, or the speed of causality. I had to look into what all of those are. They're like weird mathematical constants that exist.
Sure.
Yeah, the golden ratios and everything.
Causality, just limitations, universal constants from nature bleeding into the data sets. Others might originate from whatever cultural bias is most prominent in that specific field. A lot may also tend towards Western European customs and styles. I'd even wager that US culture, along with whatever stereotypes in media, may also show up as averages of some sort throughout these data sets. Eventually in the future, these cryptids, quote unquote, may become like signatures of the human race.
Oh, so we're bringing our best then. We're like, if we're gonna fucking live on through eons of life in this universe, Be like, do you guys remember Earth? Here's
I
some
remember
high points.
Krungus.
Yeah, there's Krungus, there's Loab, there's, like whatever other cryptids that exist. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, that's it. Those are the things that permeate through everything, every medium of technology they had and possessed. Everywhere they reached, as far as a civilization, these things permeated. So they must have been important. They must have been revered. So
yeah, they built it.
yeah, so that was
Like
it.
the
That was
pyramids.
humanity. That was humanity.
Yeah.
Killing children, I guess, was what we
I
did.
just had an like the thought of the Loab singularity, where Loab just consumes all of the internet.
That's the movie. That's the movie.
yeah.
You can't turn your computer on without Loab trying to reach out at you from your computer.
So this has been my New Year's gift to you.
Oh.
A horrifying,
Terrible.
unfortunate, default woman that is so rude. She's just so rude.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what? When we get discovered, when our fossils get
When our
discovered,
humanity gets discovered, wherever it went.
whenever we find our humanity, no, and when we get the things that we'll leave behind, Loab's one of them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, who knows? Loab, take me. Anyway, that's been our episode. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, good fucking luck out there, guys.
And everyone wanted to know which president was the true throat goat. And
Okay, I do remember this.
And they are all some sort of eldritch monsters of yore, right? She was also selling videos of her farting in the jar.
I hate this so much. I hate everything about this.
yeah.